Hello and welcome to your next session of your Business Administration course with Plato Training. Can you believe that we're on the final week of your course? So today we're going to be looking at Planning and Enterprise Activity Part 2. So your aims and objectives for today's session are to list products or services that you could sell, to research and identify costs that are associated with your business idea, and then you're going to use a promotional method to advertise your product or service. So last week we looked at some business enterprise ideas on Thursday. So some of you may have never considered opening a business. However, all businesses begin from just an idea. So that's what we're looking at really today in a bit more detail. If I give you an example here, Plato Training is just over 10 years old now, and it began in the managing director's spare bedroom, where she used that as office space, and the company has around 50 staff members now and 2 offices. So all stemming from an idea. So like I said, last week you should have looked at 4 business ideas. You then should have evaluated 2 of those ideas and chosen 1 business idea. If you have changed your mind over the weekend of what you'd like your business to be about, then please make sure that you submit your new idea as an evaluated idea into day 15 of your Teams folder. That's only if you have changed your business idea, otherwise the ones that you chose last week should still be fine to use today. So what I would like you to do, first of all, is to write the idea that you finally chose into question 1, and I want you to show why you chose this idea. So there's various reasons why you might have chosen this idea. It might be the one that's most interesting to you. It might be the one that was, in terms of when you was evaluating it, that it was easier to get knowledge and information regarding your idea. It's really going to be unique to your idea. So for example, now that you've chosen your product or service, whichever idea you're moving forward with, just something like this. So I've put here, I want to create a home cookery streaming service for people to cook along with me from their homes during lockdown. One reason I wish to do this is because I love to cook, and another reason I wish to do this is to make a profit out of something which I enjoy. So that's just an example of the reason that you could give as to why you've chosen your product or service for question 1. I have a second example here. This one relates to a product rather than a service. So my second example says I want to create masks for children to wear. When children go back to school, they may need to wear masks, especially if they get the bus. I want to make masks out of fabric that they will love, like cartoons or games. They can show their personality and be safe at the same time. So for question 1, like I said before, think back to last week and the products or services that you evaluated, and think back to the item that you chose to explore. So which product or service are you going to choose and why? So give at least 2 reasons why you've chosen to go with this idea using sentences. Please pause this video whilst you complete question 1. So who is going to pay for your product or your service? So who's going to buy a product? Who's going to subscribe or join your service? So now we would like you to think about your target demographic. So a demographic is a particular sector of the population. So it could be that you're thinking about people of a certain age. So perhaps you're thinking of adults, but what kind of adults? Are we thinking about adults in their 20s and 30s or adults in their 70s and 80s? Are you thinking about children? It could be people that have a particular hobby, so I've put an example down here like sewing. It could be that your demographic is parents, or perhaps it's grandparents. This list is essentially limitless because you need to relate this to your product or service. So you really need to think about, right, who is going to buy this product? Who are they? Who am I catering this product for? Who will use my service? Who will pay to use this service? Who am I aiming my business idea at? And that's going to help you to answer question 2. So list customers who may buy the product or service. So this is where you need to think about writing down your demographic based on your product or service that you chose in question 1. Please pause the video whilst you complete question 2. So finances. So what will it cost to make your product or run your service? So your product or service needs to make a profit. If you're creating a product, you need to think about the costs involved in producing one product. If you're running a service, you need to think about the costs involved in the daily running of the business. So I got you to think about this last week when we were looking at your ideas when you were evaluating. So again, you can refer back to your evaluation work that you did last week. So I have some examples on the next couple of slides that may help you when moving forward. So the first example I'm going to run through is a service. So I want to make a home cookery streaming service. So I need to think about the daily running of my service that I'm providing. So I need to think about the ingredients for the recipes that I'm going to cook. I need to think about cleaning products and cloths that I'm going to have to clean up with. I need to think about the cost of the electrics to run the lighting, to run my laptop, to charge my camera. I need to think about the costs for the gas for my oven and my hob. And I need to think about wearing makeup in my videos. I don't want to look too shiny or too superficial, but I want to look nice on my videos, so I'm going to put makeup costs in there as well. So you can see at the end of each item in the list there, I have put a value. At the bottom of the list, I've put a total estimation of production costs, which is £27 per live stream. So this is what it will cost me each day that I run my cookery service. Example 2 here is the mask business, which I spoke of before. So I want to make a business where I create masks for children to wear. So for my mask business, I'm going to need material, I'm going to need elastic, and I'm going to need energy, again, for my laptop, for my lighting, and for my sewing machine. But instead of looking at this as a daily cost, I've looked at it in case of a production cost per mask. So for one mask, it will cost me £1 for the material, 50p for elastic, and £1 for the energy that I'm going to use. So it's going to cost me around £2.50 per mask. So for your product or service that you've chosen in question 1, I would like you to list the costs involved in producing the product or service. So you need to think about things like your production costs. So what will it cost to make the product, like materials and labour costs and electric for light and gas for heat? You need to think about how much these items cost. You can estimate that. Please ensure that when you're writing money, you're writing it in the right format. So I've put an example there on your screen of how to write £1.10. At the end of your list of costs, you need to write a total cost of producing the product or service. So you can concentrate on it like I did, where instead of looking at day-to-day costs each time, if it's a product, I would say go for per item. If it's a service, go for per day. Please pause the video whilst you complete question 3. So now that we've looked at some of the finances, we need to look at the startup costs for producing your business. So I don't want you to get too caught up in the finer detail. However, I would like you to instead base your startup costs on the following list on the screen. So I want you to think about the cost of the equipment that is needed for 4 weeks of running the business. I want you to think about 4 weeks' wages. So think, how much can you survive on? If you're having staff members, how much are you going to need to pay them? Think about the national minimum wage. You need to think about the cost of energy for 4 weeks for work consumption only, so things like petrol, gas, electric. Or if you're not working from a vehicle or not using that, you need to think about the cost of the room hire or office hire for around 4 weeks if the business cannot begin at home. Though Boris Johnson does say at present, work from home if you can, on the date that I'm recording this at least. So I would like you to look at the cost of the equipment that is needed for 4 weeks running of the business. So think about the equipment that is essential to begin your business. You looked at this last week when you were evaluating your ideas, so you should have some idea of what equipment you will be needing to start your business. Instead of looking at what equipment it is though, we need to now add a cost value to that. Now you need to think about 4 weeks' wages. So think about how many hours either you or your staff will be working, and think about what you'd need to survive in terms of paying your housing and your bills, especially if this is going to be your only income. You need to think about the cost of energy for 4 weeks, for consumption for work purposes only, so things like petrol, gas, electric, and I've got some information of how to calculate this on your next slide. So when we're thinking about the cost of energy for 4 weeks, don't panic about maths, I can help you. So it costs around 10p for every hour of gas and electric that we use at home. So if I was to work at home 4 hours per day, 3 days per week, 4 times 3 is 12, so that's 12 hours. Over 4 weeks, so 12 hours times 4 for 4 weeks, that's 48 hours. So as I work from home for 48 hours every 4 weeks, I would multiply 10p by 48 hours, which means it would cost me £4.80 for gas and electric to heat and light my home. Okay. In terms of petrol costs, so the government pay 40p per mile, so it's easy to work that one out as that. So 40p per mile, so if you work out that you travel, let's say 12 miles per day, 3 days a week, you're going to then multiply that by 4 weeks. So you would do 12 times 3, 12 miles times 3 days a week, 36 miles times 4 weeks. Once you've got that figure there, you would then multiply that by 40p, which you would need to come up as 0.40 on your calculator, otherwise you're timesing it by £40. Like I said before, don't panic about maths, I can help and we can all help each other as well. So I have some example startup costs here. So all the way through this I'm going to be talking about a service, which is a cookery live stream, and a production, which is masks. Okay, so example 1, I want to open a home cookery streaming business. So to start my business I'm going to need the following items. So I'm going to need a camera for recording, a tripod to put the camera on, and I'm going to need lights for recording as well. It gets very dark very quickly, the days are very dark. I'm going to need some nice new shiny pots and pans. I'll need to buy some cleaning products. I'm going to get myself some makeup. I need a laptop for editing my videos. I also need some editing software to edit my videos professionally. I need to get the ingredients for my recipes. I need to pay my internet bill. I need to pay my gas and electric, and I need to pay myself enough money so that I can survive and pay my rent and bills as well. So the total estimated startup costs for 4 weeks of work from beginning my business tomorrow to 4 weeks later is going to cost me a total of £1,611.80. Let's now have a look at the production costs for the mask business. So I want to produce masks for children for COVID-19. To start my business, I'm going to need a camera so that I can photograph my products that I have made. I'll still need a tripod as well to make sure that my camera is nice and stable, and I'll need lights for the photographs. I'm also going to need lots of material and elastic, and of course a sewing machine. I'll need internet so that I can sell my products on there. I still need to heat my home, and I still need to pay myself some wages. So the total estimate startup costs for the mask business comes in slightly lower at £1,526.80. So just remember, these startup costs relate to you having no business today and you're starting your business tomorrow, so you've got to buy everything from scratch and account for the first 4 weeks of your business. So what I would like you to do for question 4 is to list the startup costs for producing your product or service. So again, I need you to think about it in terms of the first 4 weeks of your business, from having no business today to have a fully functioning business tomorrow, and the following 4 weeks. What do you need to survive for the first 4 weeks in your business? So you need to think about what is needed to start up your business. Like, if you want to bake, do you need an oven? If you want to clean, do you have a hoover that you can use? If you want to sell games, have you got enough games? Please ensure you're writing the money in the correct format. I've got an example there on your screen and in your workbook. Once you've listed your costs, your items, and how much each item roughly will cost, you will then add up the total at the bottom of the document. So the total cost of producing the product or beginning the service. Please pause the video while you complete question 4. So now I would like you to have a look at some finances in terms of profits. So how much will you sell your product or service for, and what will your takings look like? So at the moment we've looked at how much it is going to cost you to begin your business and run it for 4 weeks. Now we're going to look at how much money you're going to sell your product or service for and see if you're going to make a profit or not. So example 1 is my cookery subscription streaming service. So I'm going to stream my service for £5.99 per month, and I forecast that I will have 100 customers every month, so my monthly takings will be £599. If I make 3 videos per week at a cost of £27 per video, because that's how much I worked out previously that it's going to cost me to make each video, that is £324 over 4 weeks. Plus, don't forget, I've got my startup costs of £1,611.80, so I'm spending £1,935.80 in the first month of my business. So my business is only taking £599 for the first month, but my outlay, my expenditure, is £1,935.80. So in the first month, my home cookery streaming business will make a loss of £1,336.80 in the first 4 weeks. Sounds like a lot, but it's very realistic that your business will make a loss. Let's look at the next business, the mask business. So with my mask business, my products, I'm going to sell the masks for £6.99 per mask, and I'm hoping that I will have 100 orders every month. So for the first 4 weeks, my takings will be £699. So if every mask costs me £2.50 to make, and I'm going to make 100 of them, that means that I'm going to be spending £250 making the masks. Plus, on top of my £250 that is costing me to make the masks, I've also got my startup costs of £1,526.80p. So my overall expenditure is going to be £1,776.80p. Bearing in mind that I'm only getting back, hopefully, £699, I'll make a loss in the first 4 weeks of £1,077.80p. I've put together a basic formula for you to try and follow if you're not sure on how I got to the conclusions on the prior slides. So you need to show how much you are going to sell the product or service for. For B, you need to show how many items or subscribers you expect to sell in the first 4 weeks. I would say stick to either 10 or 100, they're very easy numbers to work with. For C, you need to multiply the cost of your product or service, which is part A, by how many you hope to sell, which is part B above. You then need to multiply the cost of producing the product or running the service, which is going back to question 3, so this question here is 5, by how many you forecast to sell, which you've already done in part B. For part E, you need to add together the cost of your startup, which is on question 4, to the amount that it costs you to create enough products or subscriptions, part D above. And now you need to write down the cost that you got in E above and deduct the amount that you got in C, and that will tell you how much profit or loss you are making. So what I would like you to do is, for question 5, is show how much you're going to sell your products and services for. So think about your business idea, whatever that idea may be. If it's a product, how much are you going to sell each item for, and how many are you aiming to sell in the first 4 weeks? I made it 100 because it's a really nice number to work with. If you have a service that you are running, how many customers are you hoping to subscribe or buy your service each week for the first 4 weeks? So again, I used 100 because I think 100 is a really easy number for me to work with. So you can show here as well if you're offering any deals. It does make it slightly harder if you do that, because then I would like you to show whether you're going to make a profit or loss in the first 4 weeks of your business. So don't forget that when you're answering this question, you need to show how much you're going to sell your product or service for, how many products or services are you going to sell in the first month, so what is your forecast? I would say about 100. You then need to think about how much it costs you to either run your service for a day or make each mask. Add that value to your startup costs and then deduct your profit. Will tell you how much of a profit or loss you will make. If you need some more help on that, go back to the previous slides with my examples on. That should help you to run through it. Please pause the video whilst you complete question 5. So marketing your product or service. This absolutely depends on the product or service that you've chosen. However, you can think about the following ways. So you might think about social media. We've looked lots at social media already. It might be old-fashioned flyers, local newspaper adverts. It could be on billboards on the side of roads. You could email flyers to customers. You could use paid advertising on search engines like Google. You could create a blog where you have advertisements on there. So for example 1, for my home cookery streaming service, I could create a website, I could create pages on social media channels, I could pay for adverts on cooking videos on YouTube, I could pay for some adverts on Facebook, and I could create a flyer with a logo that could be featured on my website, on my Facebook, on my Instagram, and on my Twitter. And this would become my brand. When you're thinking about marketing your products or services, we're not talking about financing of those, so don't worry about financing this. Don't worry about having to look at how much it costs, etc. to advertise. So for example 2, for my children's mask making business, I could advertise my product again by having a website and having social media pages. I could also open a shop on Etsy. If you haven't heard of Etsy before, it may be something you wish to have a look at. So it's a website where people who make homemade goods can sell those on there. I could also open a shop on eBay. eBay is not just used goods, there's plenty of new goods on there as well. I could create a flyer, again, with a logo that could be featured on all of the above. And once again, you don't need to include the costs of creating the website, etc. in your previous costings. So for number 6, question 6, I would like you to list ways of promoting your product or service that you chose in question 1. When you're thinking about how to sell your product, you need to think about different selling skills and techniques. So you need to offer great customer service. You need to make the payment process simple. You need to perhaps offer a deal. You could be suggestive to your customers by suggesting another product that you think might suit their needs on top of the original one that they're buying. So for number 7, I would like you to identify the skills that are needed to sell your product or service. Remember, it's still unique to your product or service that you chose in question 1. Please don't forget to put your supporting sentence in your answer. This is not a list, so make sure you're identifying correctly. Please pause the video to answer question 7. Now we need to move on to marketing your product or service. So your final piece of work is to produce a piece of promotional material that advertises your product or service that you've been working on today and last Thursday. So your promotional material could be a logo that you've designed, it could be a flyer that showcases your product or service, or it could be an example of what your website may look like. Now, with your promotional material that you're going to advertise your product or service with, if you have limited IT skills, I would highly suggest that you draw this out and take a photograph of it. Not just your first copy, I want it to be nice and neat, but I would strongly suggest that you draw it out if you struggle on IT skills on a computer. If you're good at using IT on a computer, of course you can use things like the table function, you could use Excel, you could build it within PowerPoint. I don't mind how it's done and what software you use if you're doing it digitally, as long as you upload it onto your upload your work here file for today. I can mark it whichever format you choose to do it. If you do draw it by hand, please remember to cam scan it over to me. If you use a photograph instead of cam scanner, make sure it's nice and clear, and do remember to check question 9 before you get carried away submitting. So sticking with question 8 for now, I have an example here for marketing my product or service. So here's one I made earlier. So Kayla's Cookery, so join Kayla every Wednesday, Friday and Sunday for a home cookery class live from the kitchen. So I've got a nice font, I've got a promotional photo there, relevant to what I'm doing. So I've put down that the ingredients are going to be listed each week, so my clientele can be ready. And then I've got a little promotion there as well, and then at the bottom showing my price. Another example of what I could do for Kayla's Cookery is at the top here. I've got www.cookwithkayla.com, and then I've got my cookery channel, so Kayla's Cookery. I've even put a little shadow in the background. I don't know if you spotted that. And then we've got some different recipe dishes that are on screen so that it's eye capturing. What I do want you to make sure that you do is to produce an original document. Please don't just take other people's work from the internet here. For business number 2, we've got Jackie's Masks. So Jackie's the other tutor. We've got Jackie's Perfect Masks. So Jackie's Masks are only £6.99 and sibling discounts are available. You can order online at Jackie's Perfect Masks at etsy.co.uk. So we've obviously got a graphic of a mask there with the dinosaur print on, which is child friendly. And then we've got Etsy, so etsy.com/Jackie's Perfect Masks. So this is an example of what Jackie's Perfect Masks Etsy could look like with the different materials that are on there. Click your favourite fabric to begin, and then we've got her email address and how you pay at the bottom as well. To answer question 8, you need to use one basic promotional method to advertise your product or service that you chose in question 1. So you're going to produce an advert for your business, and this could be a flyer, it could be a poster, it could be a booklet. I've provided you with lots of space for this, so I've provided you with space to draft your ideas of what you're hoping to achieve, and then I've provided you with space for your advert. However, like I said before, if you are doing this by hand on paper, if your IT skills are limited, you can submit this as a separate document from CamScanner. If you are doing this digitally and you would rather produce the document, the flyer, the poster, the booklet, whichever it is you're creating in a different piece of software, again the same applies to you, you can submit it as a different document as well. I said previously there was a question 9, I'm getting myself all confused with tomorrow's session, so please don't worry about question 9. So you should now have achieved your aims and objectives, which were to list products or services that you could sell, to research and identify costs associated with your business idea, and you should have created a promotional method to advertise your product or service.